Welcome. This is your host Yusuf, and today I'm joined by Kristan Fiandach, a voice dedicated to helping people reconnect with what truly feels good within their bodies, their relationships, and their emotional landscape. As we explore the expanding horizon of healing, we'll dive into the subtle shifts, the profound awakenings, and the moments of clarity that help us come home to ourselves in a world that really pauses for breath. With that, Christian, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Yusuf. I am really looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. So, when you think about healing in its most authentic form, what comes to your mind?
Well, healing, I think, is really a journey. It's a part of life. It's part of the human experience.
Right.
We go through things and we have to heal from them. So I think, it's really about being present. It's about living intentionally and seeking out what are the things that are going to help you heal. Um, and it's different for everybody. There's not one way that we heal. I think you have to find what resonates for you. I think for some people it can lean. I kind of think there's sometimes sort of a spectrum of a traditional, more scientific doctor route. And then there can be, things on the other end that are a lot more spiritual and metaphysical, right? And so some of us fall really hard on either sides. And then I think some people kind of more like myself, I kind of dabble in both. I like to kind of, depending on what's going on in my life, I like to kind of see what does science say, what do the doctors say, but also what does my intuition say? What am I feeling inside? And how do I connect with that inner knowing and that inner voice? Which can be challenging in that I actually think is the more challenging form of healing, to be honest with you, because you can go to a doctor and say, hey, I've got this problem, and they'll have a recipe for you or a prescription or a plan. And then sometimes when it's an inner knowing, there's a lot that has to be sloughed off first, right? There's a lot of noise coming at us, especially in the modern world. We're more disconnected, I think, than ever before from that inner healing voice. So, which is kind of part of the work that we do at Feel Good People.
Yeah. Talking about challenges, was there a moment in your own path that revealed what is that authentic form of, healing for you? That in a way that you couldn't really figure it out, sudden revelation kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I've had multiple, as I've gone through life and I've gotten older, you have these big things that happen to you and you are kind of called to respond to them. I think, you know, and kind of thinking about what a lot of my friends are going through and a lot of the people that I know are going through is sort of seeking out, I'm in my 40s, so people I guess who are probably more middle of life, kind of on that kind of path, um, is really going through, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I to do? I think a lot of in this for me especially, I did a lot of, what I was supposed to do. So I was supposed to go to college, I was supposed to make friends, I was supposed to be liked, I was supposed to get a good job, I was supposed to buy a house. You have all the things, right, that you're supposed to do, and you go through life and you're checking them off, and then you're like, "Wait, but why am I not happy? Why do I not feel fulfilled?" Or, like, "Is that?" And sometimes it's as simple as just looking around and being more grateful and calling on gratitude on a daily basis, but then sometimes there are changes that you have to make, right? And there's action that needs to be taken, and, for me, I was at a point in my life where I was in a corporate job. I had the job, I had the things, I had the outwardly, things that I was supposed to have, but inside I was incredibly struggling with chronic stress. I was really suffering from, um, not just doing a demanding job, but not really wanting to be in that job and be in that place. And, I had to, like, really, like, start to explore connecting with myself and, like, what I wanted and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and what was my purpose. And so that was the shift that led me to finding vibration and sound therapy as a part of my part of my healing journey, and eventually falling in love with that modality so much that I really wanted to share a new creation of it or a new way of experiencing it in the modern world that kind of works more in a way for the way we live today. We can't all go to a sound bath whenever we want to, right? So how do we kind of bring some of that healing into our homes? And that's what led me to create the Feel Good mat, which is a vibration and sound therapy mat, and Feel Good People, which is our company where we really focus on helping people understand their healing journey and, like, where they're at and, like, what are the tools that they can use to help them feel better on a daily basis. Um, living in, we do, I mean, it's controllable, but I think for the most part, we live in a really loud, noisy, like, stimuli world, right? And there's just a lot coming at us all the time. So, we really have to, protect our nervous system and protect our mind and our heart from, like, all the things. And so, yeah, I think that's been the biggest shift for me is just really every day looking at the life that I live and, like, where can I shut off the outside more to reconnect more with the inside and myself.
No, that's very fascinating to me because the way you mentioned that we are surrounded by sound, maybe vibrations, if I can get that. We are surrounded by so many vibrations, and that disturbs us. If someone is playing very loud music next to us, maybe our neighbors, we do get disturbed. And there are many vibrations, like when our boss is yelling at us, maybe our own vibrations that are disturbed, that comes on all on us. And regarding this, I think the body often speaks before the mind understands. How do you help people tune into their physical cues as a guide towards their emotional well being?
What you said, I absolutely agree with. It's something I think about often, um, because I think, to your point, there are a lot of things that we aren't even really consciously aware of are negatively affecting our internal frequencies, right? And human beings, being made mostly of water, are highly resonant to outside stimuli. So if you're listening to, I mean, the most simple way of experiencing this, and I'm sure all of us have experienced it, is, heavy metal, loud banging sounds, constant pings, that frequency is really disruptive. Whereas birdsong, classical music, these more subtle frequency sounds are very soothing and very calming. So, I mean, you can, in just that simplest way, I don't think there's anyone who would say that that's not true, right? Like, that's what we experience. Um, and so I think one of the key things is really getting in tune with your body and how you're feeling, because it is subtly telling you all day long if you wanna tune into it. We spend most of our time doing the things we're supposed to do in our heads, not in our body. But our bodies is where we're being told, right? Like, how's your breath? Is your breath shallow or is it, like, calm and deep, right? The breath is one of the first places that I always look, is how is my breathing? Like, how do I feel here? Some people, they carry a lot of tension in their muscles. So that's where they carry a lot of that stress. And, if you're starting to like feel tight because you've been doing this for like 3 hours and you haven't gotten up to like go outside or go for a walk, your body is going to tell you like, hey, I'm stressed out and my frequency is off. Like I'm tight. Like I'm not relaxed and calm. And um I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, but human beings are meant to be in a calm, relaxed state 80% of our day. And only about 20% should we actually be stressed out and like because okay, somebody cut us off on the road or we got something came at us that we weren't expecting, right? And so we're like, "Oh, our natural like what's supposed to happen response happens in our body, but then it subsides and it goes away and we get back to our relaxed state." But in today's world where we have our phones, social media, the news, some of us have kids, that are making demands. We've got jobs and bosses. And so you just have all this stuff and your nervous system doesn't know that those things aren't going to like actually kill you, but it thinks it's like I'm in danger. So, um, those things affect our frequency all throughout the day, and so we have to be diligent. It is our responsibility to take care of our well-being, and it is our responsibility to discover the tools that work for us, that help us get out of that fight or flight state, that stress state, to get back into the rest and restore part of the nervous system, which is where we're supposed to be 80% of the time, or 80% of the time, not the 20% of the time that most of us are living in today.
That's true. The way you put it, I feel our listeners should be brave enough to actually listen to their bodies first. They should be mentally enough aware for that. And the second bravest thing would be to accept it, to actually act on it.
I want to say sometimes I feel like it's an addiction. Like I feel like we're addicted to
Yeah.
like the work or the social or the news or the things or like the constant connecting with what's going on outside that we ignore that voice that's like, "You need a break," or "You need to stop," or "You need to walk away," or you know what I mean? And I think, and I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels that way where it's almost like you can't get out. You feel stuck. You're like but if you get out and you will every time you get out, it'll get easier and easier and easier, and that anxiety that we sometimes can feel, like, when we put our phone away, that sometimes that feeling of like, "Well, what if I miss out on something?" That fear of missing out is so real. But the more you do it, the more you realize that, like, you didn't really miss out on anything, and you gave yourself the capacity now to, like, better handle when things come up and not be so reactive and not say the thing that you wish you hadn't said or not you know what I mean? Like, you can live more intentionally and not just, like, reactively.
True. As someone who helps people reconnect with feeling good, how do you define feeling good in a world that celebrates, that busyness, that rush we are talking about?
Yeah, I think that has historically been rewarded, right? Like, go and work hard and make money and buy stuff. I mean, that's how economies survive. That's just the world we live in, right? And so, and then you're constantly surrounded by marketing and advertising and media and like this is the life you should live and the things you should have and all of that. So, um, I think that, however, though, I do think that there are more and more people who are realizing that stepping outside of that or taking breaks from that does not actually prevent you from being as successful or hitting your goals or achieving your dreams or building the life you want. Like, actually taking time to rest and restore and start again from an intentional place will actually help you get to where you wanna get faster. Um, it's just a practice of letting go of the fear. There's a real fear that we have of falling behind, of not doing what we wanted, getting what we wanna get done. There's a fear associated with it, and it's an irrational fear, it's not a real fear. It's ingrained in us, like, don't even I have a son, and I think often sometimes about the messaging that I give to him, and I don't always do it right because sometimes I'm in autopilot mom mode, but I'm thinking about, I call him "Oh, you're such a good boy," and I'm like, "I need to stop saying that because what is that? That's not even a that's just a thing that I basically he's doing the things that I want him to do, right? And so he's gonna keep doing those things because he wants to be rewarded with me calling him a good boy. So now I'm practicing on actually telling him what he did and, like, why it's significant, right? So if he shared something. I'm gonna go, that's really nice that you shared. And, sharing is a skill that's going to really help you in life because, helping others is an important value that we should have. Right. So it's a whole other way of being like, what a good boy. So, I think there's just like these little things that people are kind of like starting to wake up to and realize like if I am living more intentionally and I'm thinking more about the actions that I'm taking and what I'm doing, then I will achieve all the things that I want to. And those things that you want to achieve might even change because like I said, the more for me anyway, the more that I take rest and take breaks and I, do my healing practice or my nervous system regulation practices, the more I can connect with my true desires inside and really say, "Hey, do I really want the car and the house and the job and the clothes and, the things, right, that are being pushed at us? Do I really want all that, or do I want to just spend time outside with my son being present?" Right? It's like so it starts to shift in so many ways.
Yeah, that's so true. The way you shifted the whole narrative for your son, for instead of getting simulation or approval from you, from the outside world, and shifting it inside. Why did you like it? Did you like it in the first place yourself? Was it your mind? It really changes the whole narrative from seeking approval, chasing, approval from others to seeking your own validation, which is far more important.
Absolutely. I agree. I think it's one of the biggest challenges that I face as a parent is helping my son grow and develop in a way that is going to help him thrive in the world that we live in, right? I don't want to be ignorant of the fact that like we do live in this world that is very masculine energy and it's very capitalist and it just is. But at the same time, I don't wanna kill his spirit. I want him to know who he is, and I want him to know what he likes, and so it is a balance that I'm, working on because even there have been so many times in my parent journey, being a parent, where I've done things where I'm like, "Wow," like, that just came out of me so, you know, easily, and it was not and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "Wow, I really should have said that differently, or I should have done this." Like, you start to kinda, like, become aware of it, but you cannot be an intentional parent, you cannot be an intentional employee, you cannot be an intentional partner, you cannot be intentional about anything if you are disconnected from yourself and you're just on autopilot all the time and there's just all this stuff coming in at you, you can't your brain can't focus on being present and what's actually happening. So you have to create that kind of like bubble or practices that help you get back to that intentional part of yourself.
Right. Christian, are there any ways that our listeners can connect with you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram and I love to connect with people there. I'm Kristan underscore feels good. And you can DM me. I check all my DMs, even the ones that go into like the general ones. So you will not be ignored. But I love to talk about nervous system and stress-free practices. Parenting is always one as well. And then if you're curious in checking out Feel Good People and incorporating vibration and sound therapy into your nervous system practice, you can check us out at feelgoodpeople.com, also on Instagram at feelgoodpeople underscore.
Perfect. I am pretty sure that our listeners would love to connect with you. And do you have any last message that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I would say that in summary, I think, from this conversation, and I love having these conversations, but I just think in summary, you know, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Don't, like it's a journey and we're all here to learn and in some ways relearn who we are. And if you have anything that you want to achieve in life, or you're not even really sure what you wanna do in life, the best thing that I think you can do from what I've experienced and I've seen in other people's lives is getting really tapped into your intuition, into your inner knowing and your inner wisdom or God. Some people call that God, that sense of, something that's almost more powerful than within the physical realm. Um and start really trying to let that voice come through and, like, listen to it, and it will tell you a lot about what you need to do to heal or where you need to go or, all the things. It knows all the things. So, yeah, I that would be the message I would leave.
Christian, thank you for opening up a thoughtful, grounded space for exploring the many layers of healing.
Thank you so much for having me, Yusuf.
And to everyone listening, remember that healing isn't a race and it isn't a destination. It's a relationship with yourself that continually evolves. Give yourself permission to slow down, listen inward, and honor what feels true. Your horizon expands every time you choose yourself. Thank you so much for joining.